station making history every day.
Chicago, Chicago.
This is Chicago's talk leader.
89 WLS.
Good morning. This is John Kass on 89 WLS, filling in for Awake with Jake. Jake is okay. My wife is. We've got him in the basement, locked to the one of the posts down there, and he'll be fine. He let me fill in for him today, and I appreciate it. Well, it's 5 a.m. There's a few of you up. And for those of you who were watching television last night, did you see the Olympic ceremony? Did you see the Queen of England jumping out of an airplane, parachuting to the ground? Some of the things that I've read about it suggests that it was really a deeply left-leaning opening ceremony, that it was basically liberal propaganda, not including the Mary Poppins festival where they all jumped out, where they were using their umbrellas to fly through the stadium. But let me read you something from, I'm trying to find it here. I got the wrong one up, of course. Dancing nurses, bouncing sick children, huge hospital beds. I didn't watch it myself. My wife watched it. We were at an Italian restaurant, and I basically looked the other way and watched all the cars in the parking lot because I'm not really a big fan of the Olympics. The Olympics to me is about selling stuff and money and Gatorade and all that sort of thing, and the athletes are paid. It's just not the same to me. It's just not the same. To me, it's not a amateur event. It's really a gargantuan sports event. But if you saw it, I'd like to hear what you have to think about it. We're at 591-8900 WLS. Do you really like the Olympics? I guess the only part of the Olympics I really like are those deeply sappy, sentimental stories about, like, the wrestler from Russia who lives up in a mountain and his grandmother feeds him lentils. He runs up and down the mountain to have lentils in the morning. I like that part. I like those stories about, what do I call them, the Cinderella Princess competition, which is the women's gymnastics. My wife loves that. But I'd rather go to the White Sox game. Hey, Brian, is Brian on line 1? Do you have something to say to me this early in the morning, Brian? Oh, we're still screening. We're still trying to find out if he's legit enough to be on the air. That's one good thing about the radio. They have actual screeners where in my job as columnist of the Tribune, I just basically pick up my phone and people scream at me. And is he on? Brian, let's hear it.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
All right, well, Brian's on 294, so be careful, Brian.
Yeah, I got to talk to you before I get to the construction zone. But, hey, I wanted to ask you, if someone told you 4 years ago that the U.S. government was going to force the Catholic Church to buy the morning after pill for its employees, what would you say? And the fact that it's happened and no one cares and no one's talking about it, what does that say about our culture and the political discussion in this country? And you know, doesn't the separation of church and state, isn't that supposed to protect the church from the state as well as protect the state from the church? And you don't, you know, I don't think anyone even understands what's going on. It's like a little lawsuit between EWTN and Washington, but the ramifications are huge. It's very, very frightening to me. Not only that it's happening, but it's not the issue. This country was founded by obviously Protestants, but Protestants that wanted to practice their faith as they saw fit, and that has gone on from 1776 until 2012. Now I'm going to hang up and hear what you have to say. And
you're going to hang up and listen to your comments?
Well, yeah. Listen, if I woke anybody up, or if you know.
Well, I look. I think it is being discussed. I mean, can the government force a church? Is there a movement out there, basically, to deconstruct the institutions that are important to so many? Part of it is a power relationship. You see that one side, we call on the talk radio side, we call it the left, is basically always after these institutions to break them down, and I don't think that's going to be successful soon. But can the government force a church to sell the morning after pill? I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that's what the election's all about. Now, you're going to have a decision to make in November, because the next president is going to pick people on the Supreme Court. And that's going to be one of the big issues. So right now we're going to take a break, and we'll see you in a bit.
89 WLS. An ABC News update is just minutes away. 89 WLS. And online at WLSAM.com.
Welcome back. This is John Kass. I'm a columnist from the Chicago Tribune. And now I'm sitting in for Awake with Jake, my favorite morning show, on Saturday mornings at 89 WLS. The number to call, if you want to call and beef me about my columns this week, is 312-591-8900. But before you get all excited, I wanted to read you a bit from some of the coverage of the lefty-leaning Olympic celebration. At least that's how it was described. I didn't see it. My wife was watching it, and I was looking at the cars in the parking lot, guys showing up with very fancy cars in the parking lot of a restaurant we were at in Burr Ridge the other day. Anyway, the Agence France Presse, that means that they're French, so they don't like the British. Olympic ceremony grapples with weighty issues. A celebration of free health care, the trade union struggle, the battle for women's rights, and a fleeting lesbian kiss. The Olympics opening Friday did not shy away from weighty social issues. Adrian Burley, a lawmaker from Prime Minister David Cameron's ruling Conservative Party, tweeted, "The most lefty opening ceremony I have ever seen, more than Beijing, the capital of a communist state. Welfare tribute next." And then he followed up with, "Thank God the athletes have arrived. We can now move on from the lefty multicultural crap." Is that how you saw it? Did you see it that way? I heard about the Queen Elizabeth jumping out of the plane, with showing her bloomers or whatever they call them. Of course, it wasn't really Queen Elizabeth. I was hoping it was, but she's about 80. Well, let's see. We do have a call, and it has nothing to do with the Olympics. But Paul in Arlington Heights wants to say something.
Well, good morning, John. It's an honor to talk to you. I do have something quick to say about the Olympics. I guess like minds think alike. Yesterday, I was in downtown Arlington Heights at my favorite local Greek restaurant, and
I was at an Italian restaurant.
Right, and then unlike you looking at the cars, I was watching the trains in the Northwest line going back and forth. I figured if there's anything I want to see on the Olympics, you can always go online on your computer and see the highlights. I mean, poor Jim Thorpe must be turning in his grave what's going on now with these professional athletes. I mean, look at the big stir 15 years ago when he was accused of being a professional athlete and trying to cheat at the game when he did it, I'm sure, without knowledge that he was breaking the law. And here,
for those who don't know, Jim Thorpe was probably America's greatest athlete.
Better believe it.
Who didn't marry or didn't hang out with the Kardashians.
There you go.
And Jim Thorpe, American Indian from Carlisle, the Carlisle School, won the decathlon and the pentathlon, and I think a bunch of other events. Yes, I do know something about the Olympics.
There you go.
But he lost the Olympics. He had to give back his medals.
Yes,
because he played a little He played a little minor league baseball and took $50 a month.
Yeah.
And now these guys are making. Now some of these people are making a lot of money.
Yeah, I would say so. Unbelievable. But you know, a friend of Jake's is celebrating an important birthday today, John. Fellow journalist Skippy Walter Jacobson is celebrating today his 75th birthday. So I'm sure Walter is listening to the show. So Walter, from me and Jake, we wish you a very happy 75th birthday.
You know, I'm gonna ask Betty. I know she's taking care of Jake right now. So I'm gonna ask Betty if I'm sure Jake's happy about that because he knows Walter and I do too. And I have to say, 75 years and he's still on TV, huh?
Yeah, Channel 2.
Channel 2. Is Curtis still on that show? They're doing it together, right?
Yes, that's right.
Isn't that something?
Yeah,
wow.
Two living legends still on TV. We're blessed to have them, just like your sister station, FM WLS, having Dick Biani on the air, still another living legend here in Chicago, still at it. So
that's one thing it's great about Chicago that we can still, that, you know, we don't recycle people, that we don't tear them up. We keep them around, and they do provide, there's a lot of experience in Walter's mind, and I love hear him saying the taxpayers' money, because I grew up watching him, and he's kind of informed my politics, or at least my.
There you go. Yeah, I remember good old days watching good old Len O'Connor. Boy,
and I'm Len O'Connor.
There you go.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
All right, thank you, John. Good.
It was the critics in the newspapers and on the radio who were having fun, making fun of me and the homeless. Like this dodo from WLS.
Yeah, that's me. Definitely. Actually, I think I did see Walter when he was, I was at covering City Hall then for the Tribune. And I did see Walter, I think pretending to be a homeless guy, but I gave him a couple bucks anyway. Okay, now we have line number 3, Robert from Dallas, Texas. What's going on, Robert?
Hey, I was just wondering, I really don't care about the Olympics personally. It's very passé. I think since, maybe the 1930s or 40s, it's been...
You don't believe in miracles, Robert? Because they don't have hockey in Texas, man? What's wrong with you?
I'm a Blackhawks fan, and a White Sox fan.
Excellent.
But communist countries participate in the Olympics. Vietnam, the Olympics were held in China.
Right.
And
well, we're going to have national health care, right?
Oh yeah, of course. But what happened? The 1980 Olympics when Russia invaded Afghanistan, and they weren't allowed because they're a major communist country.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was a mistake. I think we shouldn't have boycotted, right? I don't think so. I think. Now, I'll tell you something. I'm kind of, in other words, I'm upset at the professionalism of the Olympics, but my DNA tells me that the Olympics are important because, as many of my loyal readers know, I'm of Hellenic origin, and the Greeks started the Olympics, although there was one thing I wrote about this week. They tore that statue down of Joe Paterno in Penn State, and in the ancient times, if you cheated in the Olympics, you were they would erect a statue all about you, and they would be on the road of the walkway that every athlete would see as they went to the stadium.
That's why I disagree with the tearing down of the Joe Paterno statue. It's not a monument to what he did, but I think they should have left it there as a beacon of failure.
I think it should have been. I wrote earlier this week that they should have erected 4 of them. The one to Paterno, kept that up, and to the other bosses of Penn State who protected the child molester, rapist, and said he cared. There should have been a plaque or carved in stone. This man cared more about protecting the football program than protecting children from a rapist. Exactly. And I think that would have helped us. That
would have done more good than just tearing it down and glazing over history once again.
Okay, thanks, Robert. I've got Bert in Westmont. Bert, how's Westmont?
Hello, good morning. Westmont's great. I just wanted to commend you on your column on Friday. I loved that, the Chick-fil-A controversy. But there's one thing you forgot to mention. Rahm Emanuel, our paragon of virtue as mayor, he mentioned the values of the company are not the values of Chicago. But, you didn't point out the actual values of Chicago are the 3 C's: corruption, cronyism, and clout.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. You know what, Bert, we're going to talk about that later. I'm going to have a guest on, a famous political analyst. No, not me. I'm not going to talk to myself, but some other guy named Dan Michalopoulos, a friend of mine from the Sun-Times. We're going to talk about that. So I hope you stick around, have a little breakfast, stay away from the sausage gravy, do the grapefruit. Okay? Okay, thank you. Ken in Bolingbrook wants to ask me about a guy named Mike Royso, but I think it's really spelled Royko. Ken?
Yeah, John. Good morning.
How you doing? You want to talk to Mike?
Well, we don't get a chance to get you alone very often, and I was a big fan of Mike Royko, and I was wondering if you're familiar with him and his volume of work, and if you consciously or unconsciously try to emulate him, and maybe you could expound for a minute or two on him, because I think you're the closest thing we've had to him in a long time in Chicago.
Well, thank you very much. I don't think there'll ever be another Mike Royko. I grew up in Chicago reading Mike, and if you want to talk to him, sometimes I can feel him sitting right on the back of my neck, a 200-pound Ukrainian, and he whispered in my ear, "Shut up, what are you doing?" I liked the guy. I would go into his office about 3 o'clock, and I didn't even realize this. Now that I'm a columnist, if anyone came into my office at 3 o'clock, I'd want to kill him, because that's when the deadline juices really start going, and the stomach acids can burn all the rust off your car. But he'd wave me in, and we'd sit there and have a few smokes and talk. And I haven't really talked much about this, because there are people in journalism who are sort of like the high priests of Mike Royko. They're the bishops of his church. And as a successor, maybe some of them didn't like the fact that I was there, but I liked him, and I think he liked me. And I like his family, and I liked what he meant to Chicago. He said what was on his mind. And there's nothing like that. It's hard to follow a guy. I didn't want to follow him. I was happy being the political writer at the Tribune. I thought I'd go to New Hampshire and have big steak dinners and write one column a week. And when they asked me to do it, I did it because my children were 2 years old and we needed a little bit of extra money. And there's no, Ken, I'll tell you, there's no training for a column. Just like, obviously, as you can hear this, there's no training for a talk show host. You just got to get in and do it. And it's been an honor to be associated with him. And you call anytime, we'll talk about it. You call the paper, I'll tell you what you want to know.
Well, thanks.
Okay?
I appreciate that. I had no idea that you actually, were an associate of his.
I was.
That's kind of neat.
I was a kid then. Now I'm a fat old man. But in those days, I was the skinny kid in the Armani suits, and he would laugh at me and say, "What kind of suit are you wearing? Are you a gangster? You think you're a wise guy?"
For Armani.
Yeah. Well, I was skinny enough to fit in those. In those days, I didn't have bills. So, Ken, thanks a lot for asking me about Mike Royko. He's sitting on my shoulder 4 times a week. And right now, WLS 890, we're going to a break, and we'll be right back.